Hello and welcome to another episode of Teppou Republic. On the last episode we saw the Kanazawa clan attack our northern province of Mino and capture it. I started to react, moving forces from other battlefronts to defend Umi and Owari against possible further attacks. Meanwhile, Kodama's small army came to attack a trailing Kanazawa reinforcement group that was coming into Mino from the north. The enemy had a cavalry advantage and we just about managed to counter it and then used our missile advantage to finish off the whole army. Then we started campaigning from Owari into Mino to retake it, with Takayuki leading the charge, supported by General Kodama and the remnants of his small army after that battle. Then Takamichi brought up some reinforcements to the siege, which was going on for several turns now. However, before the siege was over, the Sunpu decided to attack South Shinano, now vacant of Kodama's small army. However, the forces still there were enough to put up a decent fight. The enemy had a distinct artillery advantage, which was really putting the pressure on us. However, I had a single unit of cavalry that I managed to get outside the castle and annihilate the enemy's big guns before they could do too much damage. This meant the balance bar started to shift in our favour, and soon enough our superior position and use of explosives managed to rout the large number of low morale enemy units in their army. But then right after that, the Kanazawa army in Mino sallied out before Takamichi could arrive to attack Kodama and Takayuki's forces. So let's continue. A new age approaches, announced by heaven itself through the unending victories of all those who raise banners in its name. From all corners of Kyushu, Shikoku and Western Honshu, we receive daily news of loyal retainers rising up to fight for the House of Meiji. Soon all trace of the Western sympathizers shall be extinguished in these areas. Meanwhile, the Shogun's hounds still roam free to the east, barking at the gates of our lands, smelling for weaknesses. But our most outstanding servants, the Todo family, have already seen to it that no shogunate boot will ever approach our sacred capital again. The imperial family will not forget their loyal and unprecedented service. Your Highness, I must warn you that the loyalty of Su is widely questioned. They cavort freely with the Westerners and spread incitement of a leaderless nation. The importance of duty has been lost on the Todo family since their inception. You are too naive. The Su use Western power to further my cause. They care not for the Shogun's diplomatic curses. When the war is over, you will see how quickly the Todo turn on their foreign guests. No other clan has demonstrated loyalty to my name like the Su, and I will hear nothing more to the contrary. Welcome back to Teppou Republic, where the battle for Mino is just beginning, and very interestingly there's a river on the map. I have no idea why. This is a sally battle sieging the castle at Mino, but for some reason the battle is taking place at a river crossing, so that's going to make things interesting. There's a bridge in the northeast side of the map and a southwest ford, which is where my reinforcement group was initially moving towards, but I ended up just sending a very small portion of the forces there, because it appears the enemy are moving mostly towards the north side, which is where Kodama's initial army is setting up in a position where the red line of death will be protecting his right flank and the river on the left. The enemy are forming up looking at that bridge, so it looks like they intend to move across. Most of their forces are moving over in that direction. So once the enemy had formed up an army in that area, they start advancing on the bridge. You can see they have a lot of cavalry who are going to be taking the lead. My guys are just getting into position. They've got firing range that will allow them to start firing at the enemy as soon as they come over the bridge. But my lines are very long and thin. It means those enemy cavalry could, in theory, smash through all of my firing lines and make them useless. Meanwhile, Takayuki's army is still way away. The enemy's other detachment coming around the southwest is approaching the ford. I was going to try and defend the ford, but I realized the enemy were going to get there before I did. So I decided to change my plan. Instead of defending the ford, I'm going to defend a position, again with the flank defended by the red line of death and river on the other flank, just to stop the enemy from coming around to the rear side of my main force, because the main battle is going to be fought in the northeast section of the map. Once Takayuki's forces get there anyway, I'm setting him up on the hill, which has an overlook over Kodama's position. Meanwhile, Kodama is preparing to receive the enemy's advance. They're sending all of their cavalry across straight away. His guys start firing. Unfortunately, a lot of his guys are levies and reservists who don't quite have the accuracy to take out this heavy cavalry, especially when they're firing at the longer ranges that they can fire at. So the enemy's cavalry are going to form up and start moving right into my lines. I decided I needed to charge my yari attendants, my spearmen, forward to receive those cavalry. I thought this is going to be quite perfect actually. I can annihilate all the enemy's cavalry right at the beginning. However, as you can see, the enemy cavalry just smashed through my lines. The spears did not stop them at all. They inflicted heavy casualties on my men as they went through. But now we are starting to bog them down. The enemy's lost their charge bonus. Now we can get them into a real fight. On my left flank, the enemy Saber Cav are going to do quite well against my Yari attendants, which we have seen them do in the past. Saber Cavalry are very good once they're in these tight melee situations, and Yari attendants just aren't all that good. In the center, the enemy's general and bodyguards are slashing through my Yari attendants, while the rest of my ranged units are falling back to protect the hill that Takayuki is currently positioning himself on. So I'm going to set up a nice formation there, but these guys, who are essentially acting as a rear guard, shielding my retreat from the enemy's cavalry, are getting slaughtered. The enemy's heavy cavalry have already annihilated 2 regiments of my Yari attendants who are rushing from the field. However, I now have the enemy's cavalry surrounded. I'm starting to crush in on them from 2 sides with the remaining survivors, which means now my formation is less split up. It's less going to be man-to-man engagements, and now I can actually get a proper spear wall-esque situation going where I hack down the enemy's cavalry. Unfortunately, over here where the Saber Cav are still fighting my Yari attendants, the enemy's main force is getting so close that their archers are slamming flaming arrows into my formation. I decided that those guys needed to retreat back towards my firing lines, which are now set up, so those guys should be able to cover the retreat of my Yari attendants. Meanwhile, in the southwest, the enemy have sent 1 regiment of expeditionary force on an expedition against my men. I have 2 regiments of carbine infantry firing back at them, a fight I should win. The rest of the enemy's detachment are still hanging around on the other side of the river. I think they may have got stuck or something, or at least they are indecisive about where to go. So my Yari attendants are still trying to fall back. They're taking friendly fire, but you can see the enemy's cavalry regiment has been destroyed in the process. Also, my envelopment of the enemy's general and bodyguard have destroyed all of his men, which means the enemy's leadership, their officers, are down, as well as their most powerful cavalry units being annihilated. However, I have almost no Yari attendants left. The survivors are going to rush back to my lines, whilst the enemy's main force gets ready to attack. Back on the southwest, I use my own cavalry to destroy that expeditionary force, so I can buy some more time to set up my defences against the enemy's southwest group if they do come across the river. But so far, it doesn't look like they will. You were not so wrong, but nor were you right, General. It takes more than a rudimentary understanding of your own strengths and the enemy's weaknesses to make a wise deployment. Your spear lines may have seemed a fine match for their horsemen, but remember, your spears are exhausted from previous battles and have already spent their zeal rushing to secure the bridge before the enemy. And the enemy horsemen are the finest samurai the enemy has to offer, more than a match for a homesick attendant fighting a rearguard action while the main enemy force looms. In summary, you must see the hearts of your men, not only their blades. So now the main fight is beginning. The forces of Takayuki have linked up with Kodama's actual ranged units to form a double firing line on the small hill overlooking the enemy advance. The enemy advance itself is coming in disparate packages who are now being annihilated by heavy fire. You can see the muzzle flares in the background are completely filling the sky with smoke, and the enemy regiments are simply being annihilated and demoralized by this huge wall of fire. You can see the enemy has lots of melee units who have to close to range, rushing slightly uphill against many lines of rifles who are simply going to deplete their numbers before they can get close enough to do anything. And that's not going to be good for the morale, even of hardened samurai. They're not even going to get close before they start turning back. You can see the balance bar is now rapidly shifting in my favour as I'm just annihilating the enemy's most powerful units in just a few seconds. They both have now moved up and have started to engage with my line, finally doing some damage to the main part of my army. But these archers aren't going to be enough. They're taking fire from my own superior missile contingents, and the arrows aren't going to do that much against my not particularly tightly packed formations. Really, in a field situation like this, those archers need to be behind an actual rifle unit firing over the top of it, providing extra support and causing extra casualties on the units that the main line of their army is already attacking. But however, in this situation, they cannot do that because they don't actually have enough rifle units, or I guess they do, but those rifle units are currently wandering around over here somewhere. You can see they've been marching up and down pretty much for the entire battle. They didn't attempt to cross on the southwest ford, which I'm now securing properly with my detachment. Meanwhile, my artillery are pounding the enemy's main force into submission. You can see on the balance bar now that we pretty much have them at this stage. The enemy stand no chance of breaking my main line, and eventually all of the enemy's regiments started routing due to army losses. This group of sharpshooters didn't rout. It looked like it was going to march all the way around to the north to come and attack my main force, but my artillery got a nice glancing blow, took out a few of them, and that was enough to convince them it wasn't worth continuing the fight. They're going to get out of here. It's a decisive victory for the Sioux forces. Despite that shaky early start where Kodama lost a lot of his melee units who were already quite depleted from a previous battle, I mean his army is now really unusable for a while. The fact our main force had such a nice position and the enemy were coming in pretty much in single file, regiment by regiment, meant we inflicted a decisive victory over the Kanazawa forces, and Mino surely will be ours again very shortly. So here are the battle results. You can see the leading units in Kodama's army have taken heavy casualties, those Yari attendants, but for the most part it was a successful battle, the enemy taking severe losses, meaning that the few surviving men in their army won't be able to stand up to our sieging force now. Plus, Takayuki can now get in on the action. He's going to come and attack the castle from the west side. I could attack the castle right now using auto-resolve, however I didn't want to, because I knew that Kodama's very low strength units have a good chance of being eliminated in an auto-resolve. Auto-resolve has a tendency to assume you're going to use your weakest units in the same way you would use your strongest ones, so weak units get eliminated by their calculations. So instead, I'm going to send him back towards South Shinano to start replenishing his forces and getting him into the position I want him to be, which is as a defender of the northeastern corner of our domain, which surely is going to come under a lot of pressure in the future. Meanwhile, Takayuki is going to lead the assault on Mino. This is because he still hasn't fought a battle as the vanguard, so by doing so now he will finally get to his second level, which Kodama sneakily already has from his own actions in North Shinano and the battle against the Kanazawa. So that's good news for Takayuki and good news for the people of Mino, because they have now been brought back into the Sioux fold. The province is ours. It's still pretty much just as valuable as it was before. I do need to repair the castle, which has been severely damaged, but for the most part the Kanazawa forces didn't do anything bad to it. I'm deciding now also to start building a railway line in Mino. This railway will connect to a station that already exists over here in Yamashiro province, and it even has the potential to connect to a station down into Toimi province. This will mean that these three provinces are easily linked up and I can move troops between them in a single turn once I complete the stations in all of them, which actually will take quite a long time, so we won't be seeing that for now. So now it's time for the next strategic moves. Takayuki is going to start moving his forces back towards the capital. I want him to try and defend the area around Yamashiro. Takayuki is going to stay in Mino for now because it could be attacked again, of course. Meanwhile, I'm going to start constructing a new army in Owari to give to our up-and-coming new general, General Yoshiyuji, who is currently hanging around in Yamashiro province. Back over in South Shinano, there's a few Sunpu survivors standing around who I'm going to eliminate with a small garrison force coming out of the castle. We capture some parrot guns from them, which is excellent news. So South Shinano is now safe, and we've got a nice expensive unit for free. You can see South Shinano's castle is actually on fire on the strategy map. It has been damaged in previous fighting. So I'm going to get that repaired. I did have to actually stop some recruitment of other units to get enough money to do that, but I think it's worth it. So now I'm going to start doing the rounds, trying to get as much peace as I can, because if you remember, all I want to do at this stage in the campaign is not be at war with anyone, so I can focus all of my money on keeping the internal economy of the Sioux growing. The Kanazawa finally agreed to peace after some negotiation with a reparation payment, which is going to go very nicely towards my new economic plan. So actually, that was quite good. They paid me more money than I lost by not having Mino during the times they were occupying it. So overall, the end result of the Kanazawa engagement was positive. My men have been trained and I got more money. The Sunpu too agreed to a smaller reparation payment as peace is agreed, so this means all of our borders are actually now secure. I don't have a single enemy who actually borders with me. I'm still at war with the Tosa and the Nagoka, both clans who have their own things going on elsewhere in Japan and are relatively unlikely to harass me. The one clan I'm worried about are these guys, the Toyama. They really hate me, and they're positioned all along my northern border near Mino and could attack it just like the Kanazawa did. I wanted to try and get in with them just to reduce the chance of them doing it, so I'm going to start trading with them. However, to get them to trade I have to offer them some military access. I can get it down to just 5 turns, so I'm going to trust them not to abuse that military access for the next 5 turns and hope that we can start building relations and there'll be no more wars on our eastern or northern borders for now. So now I just want to quickly show you the political setup in Japan at the moment. You can see the West loves me whilst the East hates me. That's the basic setup. This is because the West has been unified under imperial rulership, the East has been unified under shogunate rulership, and now I'm stuck in the middle ready to attack them both. Could be interesting.
Japan and Germany have much in common. Both are fractured around the countless noble families and rivals. Both are beginning to see that to fight the other imperial powers, you must become one. Some of them even see the value of an enlightened revolution, like ours. But there's one important difference. The Japanese have no external threat to show them the value of unity. Instead, they fight each other for dominance, rather than finding a way to unite their one culture into a powerful body. I wonder, which country will be the first to show them the error of their ways?
So now I'm heading into a period of peace, which is actually going to last quite a long time. It starts off with an increase to my development level. That means I'm now at the maximum level of modernization available. So I have access to all of the top tier technologies. And one of those I'm going to start researching right away because it increases the influence of your clan's political persuasion, which means when I become a republic, I can convince people of the virtues of republicanism much more easily. Now the Toyama, who I was worried about invading me, appear to have their own problems here with the Edo clan, basically another shogunate clan, so internal warring in the shogunate factions is helping me keep peace here in the centre of Japan, which is good news. So now I'm going to show you the ultimate strategy to build amazing units in Shogun 2. Basically you want to build a training camp somewhere. I upgraded Owari to a city just to make room for this training camp. Now the training camp itself isn't the important part, but it is important that it's somewhere like Owari because you can recruit the best units from places that have gunsmiths available to construct there, and Owari is one of the few provinces you can construct a gunsmith in. You can see it here. It provides a bonus to accuracy. You can also alternatively produce an armourer, I believe it's called, which produces superior armour for your melee units, but it's not really worth it. I think going for the gunsmith, which is very expensive and takes an extremely long time to build, half a year almost, is the better choice because having superior accuracy for your units is going to pay off pretty damn quickly. Now here's the most important part. With the training camp in the same province as the gunsmith, you have loads of options to upgrade the training camp to provide specific bonuses to all units recruited in the area. You want to go for the firing range one on the far right because this provides another accuracy bonus that stacks on top of the accuracy bonus from the gunsmith and basically means units recruited in Owari from now on are going to be super accurate, which is excellent news. Now you can see I'm moving some forces around because I'm starting to position myself for my future plan, which is to attack the Kawana clan, the shogunate clan who holds both Ki and Issei provinces to the west and east of Yamato province. Securing those areas will mean the Tsu domain is nice and unified in the center and has no weird battlefronts to worry about. So I'm positioning troops on the east side of Ki, led by Takahisa over there. His army is actually very good. The superior armies are going to be focusing on their capital at Issei. I've got Takamichi leading an army down from Mino. Meanwhile, Yoshiyuji is going to attack from the east from Owari once his army is ready. You may also notice I now have train lines running up and down the Tsu domain who can, in theory, move my troops about very fast. I don't really need that ability at the moment, but in the future the ability to move troops in a single turn all the way across Japan is going to be extremely useful. Now we're moving on into the late autumn of 1866. There was an earthquake in Totomi province which says it's going to severely damage my ability to construct buildings there. I was worried by this because I was enacting several building projects in Totomi at the time, but it turns out it doesn't affect any buildings already in progress, only buildings you build from now on, which seems kind of unrealistic. Seems like it doesn't really work, that particular debuff, but pretty good for me, so Totomi is safe despite the earthquake. My Obama allies to the northeast are not safe. The Yonago clan, another imperial supporting clan, captured their areas, which means I won't get any of their vassal payments for now. A shame, but not a big diplomatic problem. Some good news in Owari is that I've now finished the American trade port, which means Owari is now extremely economically valuable as well as militarily. One of the things this trade port allows you to do is to construct an American-style ironclad ship, and by ironclad I mean invincible. These ships are almost unsinkable and will defeat almost any opponent except another ironclad, so they're very expensive, take ages to build, but I'm going to make the investment to add one of those to my navy. The other special units it enables are the United States Cavalry and United States Marines, who are very good infantry. You can see their accuracy is massive in the stats on the left there. Normally a unit has accuracy similar to its reload skill, but these Marines are very accurate, plus they're going to get the accuracy bonus from my buildings in Owari. So here a little bit later, after the firing range is complete, you can see the accuracy of these US Marines is now sky high. It's almost as high as it's possible for their accuracy to be. Even these line infantry have doubled their base accuracy, so are now twice as deadly as they would be originally. Very good news, and it doesn't affect their buying price at all, so it's essentially increasing their value. Now moving on, the Tosa, who we've been at war with for no particular reason for a while, decided they wanted peace with us. That was fine by me. I wanted to see if they would trade with me, and they would, and then I wanted to be cheeky and see if they'd give me some money. They weren't going to agree to that, and I think that's fair because really we haven't actually been in conflict at all. They don't owe me anything. And the trade agreement's pretty good, so I'll make some extra income off of that. These guys are currently dominating Shikoku Island, so I don't really want to be at war with them anyway. They're starting to get more and more powerful. However, one turn later, they attack my ally, the Takayuki, who are controlling Awaji Island, I believe, at the moment. So now I'm pretty much being forced to go back to war with the Tosa clan, otherwise I'd be penalised for betraying my alliance. So we're now back at war. We had one turn of trade, and now it's over. Oh well. So now, after the gunsmith is complete, have another look at this US Marines accuracy. It's pretty much at the extreme top, 90. A few technology and general upgrades will get them to 100 accuracy. Line infantry now have 65. They're more accurate than US Marines were in their base edition. Our standard line infantry are now as good as elite foreign infantry who cost twice as much. This is the secret to infantry in Fall of the Samurai. In other cities, the smiths secretly turn their noses up at the Teppou, believing that the whole class of weapon is without beauty. They think back nostalgically to their hours of folding and hammering at the blades of katanas that did great deeds. But they miss the art of the gun in their blindness, the perfection of the rifling, the balance of the bayonet, the precision of the sights. An Owari rifle is a cut above all others, an item of beauty on the battlefield with more technique and skill molded into it than any sharpened metal club. When news spreads of our craftsmanship, the age of the sword will end forever. Now I finally made it to spring and it's campaign season. It's time to start my plan to move against the shogunate owners of Issei and Ki province. First, I'm sending a gunboat to scout out Issei province to see if the enemy has reinforcements, because I know they have at least a couple of stacks hanging around, but only about half a stack currently stationed in the castle. I've got my two armies ready to attack as soon as the war starts, one led by Takemichi, the other by Yoshiuji. Yoshiuji has some of the elite troops, not completely elite, these are the guys who were trained before the gunsmith, but still some pretty good US Marines there who should be able to do some damage. Unfortunately, he can't reach the castle with his parrot guns, but Takemichi can, which means once we start the siege we will be able to have some artillery, but not the full force of artillery I had planned. But if I can make the siege last a couple of turns, we will have all the artillery we need. The other thing I need to do is attack from Yamato towards Ki. Before I did that, I wanted to scout out Ki using the shinobi I have hanging around. So I move forward and it looks like Ki has absolutely nothing guarding it. I know the enemy has troops here because I've seen them moving around in the end turn sequence, so they must have moved away from the castle for some reason. Perhaps there was a rebellion and they've moved south to fight with them. So it looks like the way is clear for Takahisa to move right over and take Ki, so it's time to get the action started. I'm going into diplomacy with the Kawana clan and we are going to declare war on them. You can see they don't have any allies, they have only me as a trade partner, and they're at war with a couple of obscure clans. So overall there are pretty much no consequences for declaring war on this clan. I'm not going to pull my allies in because it's not worth making them have to make any hard decisions about this, even though they probably would have joined the war. I don't want them to accidentally take some of the enemy's territory either, because this war is purely for conquest. Taking their territory will make my domain much more secure, plus their two provinces are really rich, so in terms of economics and the fact that I need to become self-sufficient, it is important for me to capture these regions. So Takahisa moves forwards. He can't take his artillery, but he doesn't need it because the balance bar is heavily in our favour, so I'll initiate an auto-resolve. He has an army he's been building up from Yamato, so his guys don't have all of the accuracy bonuses of the guys over in Owari, but they do have charge bonuses, which means his army is best for melee engagements, even though most of it is actually ranged units. A strange situation, but anyway, Ki is ours, a very key province I might say, because it's so valuable. The problem is that the castle has been damaged, and you can see in the bottom right I don't have any money. The enemy army that was guarding it is, as I suspected, hanging around to the south not doing anything, so they'll probably come back. To get the money to repair the castle I had to stop recruiting some infantry in Owari, but that's okay for now. It's more important to get the castle repaired so that I get the public order bonus from it and can move on from the province as soon as possible. I also spotted this other Kawana force sitting in a really awkward position. It's got tons of artillery in it, but it's so far from both Issei and Ki, and it's really far from roads, which means it's going to be several turns before it can actually come and influence this war. So this gives me a lot of room to maneuver. It basically means I can lay siege to Issei and not have to go into a very dangerous siege assault, because it's going to take ages for the enemy reinforcements to get to them if they ever do at all. Whereas for me, I can continually move reinforcements I'm recruiting from Owari and just make the balance of power even more and more in my favour as time goes on. So when the enemy eventually do sally out because their supplies are running low, we'll have a nice chance to get a decisive victory against them. The gunboat that was scouting, I'm going to send them to just keep watch over the enemy's reinforcement army, and while they're there, I'm going to shoot them with a few cannons. It doesn't do any damage because the gunboat is super weak. In principle, you can take out a few troops firing cannons at them on the campaign map, and it also gives experience to your gunboat crew. You can see there on the fame bar, I've still got a bit of room for maneuver even after capturing Ki. It doesn't look like capturing Issei will actually tip me into Realm Divide, which is perfect because that will give me more time to move my armies back to the fronts where the wars are going to be once Realm Divide starts. Then I'll just attack one or two shogunate provinces in the east somewhere and we'll get this thing started. But for now, we're just going to keep Issei under siege. I've got my ships ready to provide naval support. Once the enemy fight with me, it should be a decisive victory, but we'll find out next time on Teppou Republic. So that's all for this week's episode. Join me to see the war with the Kawana and the return of an old enemy next time on Teppou Republic.